print out 2 copies of frame 1 and 1 copy of frame 2, which is the power supply, and verify these templates are exactly to scale. You might have to set print actual size on your printer settings. So it's supposed to be 10 inches exactly. Slightly more than 10 inches, but we're fine. Not all tape measures measure the same. Here's the tools that you need: a drill, tape measure, vice grip sheet metal folders, assortment of drill bits, screws, and snips to cut the aluminum bar, or you could use a saw. First, we're going to cut 2 pieces that are 20 3/4 long. This is 1 piece. The page isn't 20 inches. We're going to make 2 of these. (20 3/4). Second piece. One's going to be labeled left, and the other one's going to be labeled right. Now I'm going to cut 2 more pieces that are 6 3/4 long. The final piece, which is the hook, is 7 1/4 long. There's the 6 3/4, 7 1/4. Notice I'm pushing my weight down into the snips. Now the snip does make the ends kind of wonky. You can just straighten those out. Next, let's mark the fold lines, which are these dotted lines. And it says start the tape measure at one end. They're symmetrical, so it doesn't matter which way you do it. And you're going to use the same tape. So what I like to do is hold the tape with some tape. That way it's not going to move on you. Get your lines more accurate. Just tape the tape. So first one is 3 5/8. Six 3/4. 17 1/8. And don't forget 14. My marker is bigger than I need, so I'm making sure to use the center of my marker. And then verify my tape did not move. 20 3/4. Let's do the same on the other. Don't forget to tape your tape. Three 5/8. 6 3/4. 14. 17 1/8. Now let's cut out the templates, and we'll tape the templates on and start drilling. This is the right template. I want to make sure I can see my R. So I'm just going to write my R on my template. The most important part, you see it lines up on the folds. The most important part is the end. You want to get that end lined up pretty good. Now my cut isn't square, which I can see. I'm not square to the template, so I'm making sure I'm on the long part. And then the left side, you see the folds line up, and you want to line up on the end of the metal there. Make sure you can see you're on the right side, because we're just going to drill the holes that are marked right or the holes that are not marked at all. Now let's do the same for our left side. Cut out the templates. Now we got our tape measure start. Let's line that up. Again, I'm not perfectly square. As long as I'm on the long side, I'm fine. My frame will be a little bit trapezoidal, but you'll never notice it. My left is covered up. Make sure I can see that this is the left piece. Next, let's do our front and back and our hanger templates. I labeled back on one of the cross braces. So I have my templates. Now I'm ready to drill. So to get the most accurate holes, I'm going to center punch with just something pointy. I'm going to drill with 16 inch, get a little deeper, and then do the final. I'm going to go ahead and center punch all the holes now. Just one whack. Now this one I do the back holes also. the left piece, don't do the right holes. Just do the left holes and the unmarked holes. Double checked, I punched them. Now we're doing the right holes and the unmarked holes. Now we got everything center punched. Let's drill some starter pilot holes at the 1/16. And it's much easier to drill now. I don't even need to go all the way through. Just deep enough where I got a good start for the bigger bits. Let's do the same to all the templates. So we have all our starter holes with the 16th bit. Let's start with the next size bigger, the 7/64ths. And let's drill those all the way through. You have to put a little bit of pressure on these. $7.64. Just do them all. Now Now we'll go to our next size bigger, the 964. Now our next size bigger is 3/16. I'm going to show how to do the template on the modified power supply. If you don't modify the power supply, you'll just tie up more wires. But there's less wires like this. So first thing we want to do is check our scale. Make sure you measure exactly 10 inches on the bar from end to end. And I'm measuring pretty darn close to 10 inches. Now let's cut out the template. Now notice one side's marked wire outlet. That's where you want to put it. This is the front of the miner where the power supply is. So now let's tape this thing down. It should match the size of the power supply because we're putting screws right up on the edge. The main thing is you don't want it to move when you're drilling. And we're just drilling 1/16 of an inch. Try center punch just lightly because it's sheet metal. Notice I'm using a lightweight hammer. Next, drill our 16th inch holes. You want to be careful, don't go too deep. Alright, that's walking. That punch didn't go very good. I have to push harder, get it not walking. It's still walking. Let's whack it harder. Much better. Got to get a little dimple there. And we'll get the chips out. We have all 8 holes drilled. Let's remove the template. Let's get our chips out. Do a good shake. Now we want to do some folding. We're going to do on the lines we marked, and we're going to fold up on those lines. So I marked on my tool, going to be on each side of the line, and I want to be square. and I want to get on there pretty tight, but I want to get not too tight where I'm not flat. So you can tell when you get your tool right, it'll grab it better. There it grabs. Set your tension just right. And use your line. It can be easier to be square, because if you're not square, you're gonna have to do some bending on the frame. So notice I have a gap, and then I'm just gonna grab it with two hands, or you could use the edge of your table. Just grab it and bend it 90 degrees. Just like so. And go to your next one. Try to make it square. Spacing doesn't matter as much as just centering it. I got tore up by a cat today. That was a mean cat. And if you kept it square, you'll get pretty close to where you need to be. Otherwise, you can just twist it, and our holes will line up pretty good. So let's do the same on the other piece. Now this one turned out a little less straight, but easy to fix. Just grab it and bend it. You're good. Check our spacing. Yeah, that'll line up. Now here's when you need to know your left and your right. Power button looking at you, the front. Here's our right. That'd go on the right side. So we use our number 6 by 1/2 inch screws. We're going to screw them by hand. Notice they fit nice and loose. And then we're going to be tapping this 16th hole. Just push and turn, and it'll thread right in the steel. Don't tighten it yet. It's going to get kind of close to tight, but we'll tighten them at the end. Got to get this next one in. Got to get it started. Now here's where you're going to find out how square your cuts are. And you can file down if you've messed up your cut. And I feel it in the hole. Push, turn. Use a drill on that. Just to start it with the drill. Not tightening them yet, I'm just getting them in the hole. Now let's tighten them all up. Now notice how everything pulled together. We were a little bit not square right here. Use a pair of pliers and make it look nice and pretty. There we go. Now here's when you want to check you got your screws right, because you're going to have your four motherboard holes. You just want to look, make sure those are existing, and they are. So you didn't forget any screws. And then also you have your front and your back support. So let's mount the left side now. When they're centered up, they start real easy by hand. Push and turn. If the holes aren't perfectly centered, you might have to use the drill or adjust your piece. That went right in. You drill your holes accurately, this stuff will match nice. But there is a little bit of tolerance. That one's not wanting to start. I'm going to hit that with the drill. But I want to do it by hand. I don't want to break that screw off. So now we can tighten all four. And then let's make our end nice and pretty. Pliers there. Actually, I can see them a little loose on this one. And it starts getting pretty stiff. You could almost get away with not putting your cross braces, but it's not square. See that? So our braces are going to square that up. Next, let's do our cross braces. Our back is where the wire is, and the back has the extra holes for just securing the left and right of the hanger. I'm going to use a drill on these. And then the frame will pull itself square. These are threading into the aluminum. But the hole is plenty big on the brace. You're just threading on the frame. I'll do the final tighten by hand. Then I'll break these. Now see how it's pulling it nice and square. Not all the way. I can see these holes are lined up pretty close to perfect. This one's a little off, but the aluminum will give. Now it bends a little bit. You can kind of push on it. Kind of bends when it pulls in. This fold wasn't perfect, so it's kind of bending that aluminum a little bit. I'll straighten it with these pliers here. You can see I just kind of bent it a little bit. This one, just push it down. And do a little bit here. Now don't forget 2 screws in the back. They're just acting like a stop. Now look for our squareness on our frame. A little bit warped. Can push this a little bit diagonally. But that's just aesthetics. The main thing is these bottom, and notice these holes are so big, we got a lot of room for slop on the motherboard. Next, I'm gonna wash my hands, and my tools were a little bit oily, and we'll start mounting the motherboard. Now we're using the M4, which is 4mm thread by 18mm long standoffs. And we're using screws and nuts. So we're going to use 4 of those. So we're going to mount these loosely. They have a lot of room to move. And we're just going to mount them loose so that we can tighten down the motherboard first. Make sure you use all the same size. And I deburred all these holes with a utility knife. That way I don't have the burrs pushing the pieces over. And I'm checking the length on every one. I don't want to have a different length and then try torquing that motherboard down uneven. It wouldn't like that. Put them in loose. We'll tighten them after we tighten the motherboard. Checking my lengths on all of them. So now the front facing, when I take off the fan, it's not going to clear with the fan. And I don't want to put the back sheet metal on there because it's just going to block airflow and make it harder to clean. So the motherboard's bare. I wasn't crazy about the M2 Wi-Fi card. They were expensive. They make the antenna stick out really far. These little USB Wi-Fi's work good, but you could do either if you want. So we're sliding the motherboard in, not breaking off chips on the bottom. So hold it up high. My dongle doesn't clear. And just slide it across, up. And then start checking your alignment, and they should be perfect. So now we're going to put in the 4mm screws on the top. Now I'm putting them all loosely at first, and then I'll tighten them down. And there is a little bit of an angle you got to work with. I thought about drilling holes, but the amount of times you're doing the motherboard, it's not a big deal. I don't want to tighten yet, we'll just get them all lined up. Try not to cross thread, and it should be basically going in by super easy. That one's kind of off, so now I'm sliding stuff around. I don't want it tightened yet. Alright, so now I'm going to tighten just the tops. Pretty tight. Let's tighten the bottoms. Now I don't want to go crazy tight on these bottoms, but they will end up, if the standoff isn't perfectly lined up, it'll straighten it out. When you take the board out, you want to loosen the bottoms too. So we're good, motherboard is tight. Do our little check for it, make sure nothing loose. Make sure we don't have chips. Alright, next, start running the wires. So the wire is going to act like a wall to kind of block things off, but I do have to run inside. So I want to get these ribbons flattened out as best as I can. This one is a little bit spun. I want to go all the way from the end. Try to flatten it out. Now I have my memory installed, so be careful not to bang it. Our CPU, make sure we're flat. Let's run that. So we're going to run through this back side here. Right where the wire goes up. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put that twist on the side rather than the back, because I want to be smooth in the back. That way I can go flush against the wall. Now this is easier to route before you mount the fan. So let's keep them together. Let's go through the front. I'm going to stay inside. Our CPU one's going to be too long, and then our 24 pin is going to be the perfect length to plug into the back. I want to make sure we don't have any twists up in the front here, because that fan's coming up pretty close to these wires. Well, let's go ahead and plug this in. Now this board is like a laptop board. You don't want to just bend it. I want to grab underneath it and squeeze this connector in. Both sides, left and right. Notice I'm squeezing. I wouldn't use a pair of pliers on there. I've had before, but you're risking. And then when you unplug, you gotta split that with a screwdriver. Start with a small screwdriver, then a big one. I'm squeezing now with two hands. But I'm pinching, I'm not pushing. So we need to be flat in front of this fan. Now, this wire is going to be plenty long. I'm not worried about the CPU one yet. So now let's start neatening it up with some nylon ties. First, let's put one on the back. So these wires are going to get one tie to hold them away from the memory. And we're going to be above the motherboard. Right to that aluminum. So I want to have my wires flat. Right up close to the board for the wall. And I'm not making that tie very tight. It doesn't have to be. And I don't want to block my air by putting wires down low. That would block your airflow. The wires are going to be up behind this aluminum. So I don't want any twists there. I'm not even worried about the CPU yet. And cut that off because I have one wire that's short. I want to put that on the inside. Now make sure we're clearing our fan. Clearing our fan. This got a little bit ugly here. We'll clean these up. Our lengths are kind of different. All right, let's tighten these front ones. I'll tighten this back one a little bit. Extra wire will just loop back. Our CPU connector, make sure the latch is right there. The latch is on the outside. And again, you want to reach in, pinch it, not push it. So we can neaten these wires inside. I have some little tiny nylon ties which I like to use. And you can bend these wires. They play nice when you bend them. So now let's mount the fan. The fan plugs in where it's marked CPU, which is right next to the 24 pin. And it looks like it's a hard spot to reach, but it's not too bad. You can reach it from there. And I'm putting the wire close to it. And I already took off all that armor so I can fold this wire up neater. And there's plenty of room for the fan. The fan mounts with these long screws. They don't tighten very tight either. And I have the air blowing down. Bundle the wire before we plug it in. Just kind of estimate how much we need to reach down in that hole. And then I just like to tie it to that screw there. And I'm using the small nylon tie. Not too tight. It's kind of loose. Now I'll reach in. Plug in that fan. Let's mount the USB. Plug that in. Let's plug in the status LED, and it's best to use these USBs on the left. They seem to be a little better connection with this LED. I just put it right above the Wi-Fi. Now the power switch is going to tie on with a nylon tie, but it's not going to be looped. It's going to have like two ends on it. So I'm just going to cut it in half, cut the end in half. I don't need all of it. I'm going to loop it through the hole, just like so. And then I'm going to come back around to the other hole. And then the switch, just notice the wire is offset there. The switch is going to slide up into the loop. And it's just going to be held in place. And then for the other end, now make sure you do the ribbed, has this catch. So it's like you're putting two together. Now I don't need the tie on that. I'm just using the latch mechanism. So I'm going to center the button in the hole. Now I'm going to tighten it. And I'm using very small nylon ties for this. Cut that off. And then here all that presses. So now let's plug in, and we're going to loop our wire. So we have some extra wire there. The switch plugs on the inside, two that are offset. Just tie it up on the inside here. Maybe leave it above the memory. Now let's power it up. Keep in mind when you're working on this thing, when it's powered up, if you shut it down here, the capacitors stay charged and it keeps 5 volts going on this bus on the USB. So even if you disconnect it, this thing could still be hot for 15-20 minutes. So if you're going to be servicing it, you want to go ahead and just kill the power and let it drain. Or try starting it up to drain the voltage to make it completely dead. We're just checking that it powers up. Turn that off, plug in. So turn on. And no light or nothing. Now let's press the power and see if the fan starts. There you go. Powering up.